Greetings and welcome to another Lessons with Odin. On this episode, I'm going to be showing you how to make these adorable little sconce earrings inspired by these little bullet labradorites that I got from LBeads, and I really saw sconce when I first started drafting the pattern for it. I've seen a bunch of people do like Rivoli on top of thing at the bottom, so I kind of wanted to throw my hat in the ring for that, so that's kind of where I got that idea. I very like the idea of Rivoli on top of thing. So, this is actually a pretty simple work bead-wise, especially if you're familiar with peyote. The chain work can be a little finicky, but it's really not that bad, so I'm hoping everybody, no matter what skill level, will give this a try. And I hope you have fun with this. So for this project, you will need an already bezeled 12mm Rivoli. This is done with the peyote stitch. If you don't know how to do the basic bezel of peyote stitch, I have a couple of videos available to you. Either way, if you are doing the single thread, this is going to take 30 beads for your initial round, or 15 stitches if you're using the double needle. Also, get rid of your tail, because we're not going to use it, and it's just going to get in your way with this piece. You will need a bullet type thingy. This is a labradorite bullet that I got from LBeads. I'll leave a link to where you can find that if you'd like to do the same thing. Or anything 10mm wide. If you can use like some sort of droplet or a point where the top is 10mm. If it has a top drill hole, that will also help you out. But yeah, that's what I'm using. You'll need size 11 delicas, size 15 seed beads. I use 2 colors, you don't have to. You'll need size 11 seed beads, 2 3mm or 4mm bicones, or whatever you want. I'm using 15 true 2mm beads, and this is all just for one piece. So if you want to make a pair of earrings, double it. You will need some very thin gauge head pins. You can also make your own head pins out of wire. You're going to need something really small because 2mm beads have very small holes, so whatever can fit in that. And some teeny tiny chain, again, as well as matching through, something that can get through the tiny head pins. But anything you have will be cool. And you will need some wire just to make a link in the findings. The gauge will depend entirely on what you can fit in your chain. This is some really tiny chain that I'm trying to get rid of, and it's a pain in the ass to work with, so I'm using 26 gauge wire. But if you have larger chain, you can probably get away with larger things. And of course, your needle and thread. I'm using a size 12 needle with some 1G. And with all that being said, let us get started. So the starting bezel of this is going to be really simple. We're basically going to do peyote all the way down to wrap around our bullet. You will want to start off coming out of the first row of size 15s on the back of your bezel, not the one that is immediately wrapping around, but we want the second row. This one is touching delicas. And what you'll want to do is add on 1 delica and pass through the next size 15 on the round in that same row. Once more, add a delica, pass through the next size 15, and continue on. You're going to do that all the way around, continuing in peyote stitch. Now, if you already know peyote stitch and you're very familiar with it, you're going to do 1 more row of delicas, 1 row of 11s, and then 1 row of size 15s. However, if your bullet is top drilled, when you end with the delicas, you can go ahead and attach through the hole, just kind of weave once through 1 delica, go across, weave through the next delica, and keep reinforcing that until your bullet is nice and anchored. But in the meantime, I will show you the next row. So continue all the way around, adding delicas in between the second row of size 15s on your bezel. Alright, so your last stitch will be right next to the delica bead, the first one that you've added, so you'll pass through that. You will step up by going through the topmost delica next over, and you're just going to repeat that another row. So I add 1 delica bead, pass through the next delica bead over, and repeat. So once more, add on 1 delica, pass through the next delica, and go all the way around like that. Alright, and with your last row, you'll add 1 delica, you'll pass through the last delica, then step up by going through the topmost delica. Our next row is going to be size 11 seed beads, so you will add on 1 size 11, pass through the next delica on the round, and repeat. 1 size 11 to the next topmost delica. Repeat that all the way around. But also, before you do the 11s, if your bullet has a hole, you're going to anchor it here. You'll pass your thread through it. You'll go through one of the delicas, pass back through, and on the opposite side, anchor it to one of the delicas, and repeat back and forth until your bullet is secure. Then you can continue on adding the size 11 beads. And with your last one, you will step up by going through the last delica and passing through the size 11 seed bead. This is the final row, and what you will do is you will work with size 15s. Add 1 size 15, pass through the next size 11, and repeat all the way around. And for your last row, you will step up by passing through the last size 11 and up through the size 15. Now, before you pull tight, you're going to wedge in your little gem bullet thingy, pull that tight, and then you will reinforce by passing through the size 11 and size 15 along the bezel until it's nice and secure. Alright, once you've reinforced it, since mine isn't drilled, it kind of doesn't fit too nicely, depending on how tight you want it. You can get it snugly in there, but for some extra security, I'm going to wrap a cage around it. So I have actually gone down to a size 11 seed bead. I have added on 10 size 15 seed beads, a 3mm bicone, and a size 11 seed bead. I'm going to pull that down. Don't worry too much about where that is. We can just pull that off and anchor it in later. So, from there, I'm going to skip over the size 11, pass back through the bicone, and through all of the size 15s. I'm going to pass through, pull tight at the bicone so that this is flush against the rest of the bezel. Then I'm going to pass back through the same size 11 we started from, just on the opposite side so that it centers itself over the fringe. Now we're going to move over 5 seed beads. This is a bezel of 15, and we're making 3 prongs, so each prong is going to be 5 seed beads apart. So I'm going to go down through the delica underneath, trying not to catch the fringe in the process. Go up the next size 11, that's number 1, down the next delica, up the next size 11, that is number 2. If you get good at it, you can pick up both at the same time. So you pick up the delica and the next size 11, that is number 3, number 4, and finally number 5. So then you're going to add 10 size 15 seed beads, go through the 3mm bicone, back through the size 11 at the tip, back down through the 3mm bicone, then pass back through the 10 size 15s that you added for the second tendril. Hold the bicone to pull that tendril tight, and then pass back through the size 11 that you started from on the opposite side, so that you'll start the second tine of your cage. Move 5 size 11 seed beads and repeat, but then you will wedge in your bullet, secure everything tightly, and this cage should wrap around very tightly. And this is what you end up with. Now, mind you, if you have a different size bullet than mine, longer or shorter, you may need to adjust the amount of seed beads that you use. Now, you could keep it like this because it's really cute, like that, and you can do little bails on top of here to attach a chain, but we're going to go one step further. You can kind of see how we have from the side these delica beads that are kind of sticking out. From the 12mm bezel, it is the center delica bead. On the bezel, we have 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, top, middle, bottom. So we're going to be looking at the middle one. From the bottom bezel, it's going to be the very first delica on top of the size 11 seed beads. So we've got the 11, we got the one diagonally across there. So from a size 11, I am going to move diagonally to one of these delica beads. So then I'm going to add a size 15, a 2mm size 15, and I'm going to go diagonally. So I'm coming out of this bead here. I'm going to jump across until I spot this bead, which is next over, and pass through in the same direction, so that we anchor our 2mm. We're basically going to be acting in a cross. So our 2mm is going to be anchored between 4 delicas. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that'll help you kind of guide your way as you add your next one. Once again, a size 15, a 2mm size 15. This time we're going to go on the bottom. So if you look, you can kind of see the 4 beads that we're going to work with. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Since we're on the top, we're going to jump over to the bottom, moving diagonally, passing through, and anchoring our next 2mm bead. They're going to basically angle into each other as we add them along. So once again, a size 15, 2mm size 15. We are on the bottom. These are the beads we're going to be working with. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Move diagonally upward to the next delica bead over. Add on another set. Jump over to the next delica on the bottom, and repeat that all the way around. Alright, and that is what we are looking at. Now, remember that we wanted to use 4 beads between each 2mm bead. We're going to be doing just that. We're going to be filling in the beads that we didn't use with our size 15s. And when you finish your thread, you're actually coming out of a delica bead that doesn't have a size 15 next to it. So I'm going to fix that by adding on 1 size 15. I'm going to pass through the 2mm bead, add on 1 more size 15, and you'll see we have 3 corners of our 2mm bead filled, and our 3rd corner is attached to the next delica over on the bottom. So we'll pull on through, and this will line up our 2mm and get us prepared for the next one. The delica bead that we just passed through also does not have a size 15 seed bead over in this corner. So we're going to add 1 size 15, pass through the 2mm, add on 1 size 15, the last corner delica, like that, and we can continue on. So once more, this corner on this side of the 2mm is blank, add on a size 15, go through the 2mm bead, add on your size 15, go through the delica on the last corner of that 2mm bead. Repeat that all the way around. And this is what you end up with, which is the semi-completed piece. Once you've figured out what you wanted to do, our next phase is to turn it into a chandelier thingy. So, you're going to take one of your head pins and slide it through the 2mm bead around the center. Then you are going to take some round nose pliers and just do a simple rosary loop, which is bend it back, bend it forward, stick your needle nose back through, and complete the loop. Then you're going to cut the excess so you have your little loopy bits. Like that, and then you're going to do that for 4 more times. You're going to count to 3. Remember, we're doing that round of 15 deal. We're having 5 pins. Therefore, you will need to go 1, 2, 3. Stick it up there. Do more loops and repeat that all the way around it until you have done 5 pins. Be sure to try and keep your loops relatively the same size so it'll help with all the hanging, but nobody's perfect. It'll help if you mark your area that you're using on your pliers so that you can stick the loop in semi the same time as everybody else. And that's it with all 5 little loopy thingies on there. Now you're going to need 5 pieces of chain that are exactly the same length to the link, because that'll help things hang evenly. It's never going to be perfect, but work with what you got. If you're making a pair of earrings, cut 10 at the same loop so you're not figuring out what length is what when you are working on the separate pieces. You'll also want 2 more lengths of wire or chain that could be any length you want depending on how long you want your earrings to hang. So, do that. All we're going to do is open up one of these loops a little bit more, take one of your pieces of chain and slide it on to the end of the loop and then close the loop real tight so the chain doesn't escape. I am not going to show you this because I am using excruciatingly tiny chain that just barely fits on this loop, so it's going to take me a while, and I don't want you to see me struggle because we've done enough of that already. Do that all the way around for all 5 pieces. So now you have a chain jellyfish type dealio. Next thing you're going to do is take a small length of wire, 1.5, 2 inches, whatever. You're going to make a loop on it, but you're not going to close it all the way. You are instead going to pick up each piece of chain like so. Make sure you do it one by one and in order so that it hangs without any weird twists. So, I've picked up my first one. I'm going to go immediately to the left and pick up my second one. Struggle with my giant sausage fingers. Pick up number 2, slide it and stick it into the loop. Go to the left. Pick up number 3, and so on and so forth until you've picked up all 5 pieces of chain. Once you have all 5 of them connected, you're going to wrap the wire to close it so the little tiny chain does not slip out. Then you'll add on your next bicone, slide onto the wire, start another loop, but don't quite close it just yet. Add on your hanging length of wire, chain, not wire, to the wire. Pull it through the loop, then wrap your loop. Then you end up with your nice finished chandelier. Now, if you didn't want to futz with chain or you didn't add your 2mm, what you can do, you can use the delicas that you would attach the 2mm to and put a loop and fringe like you did down here to kind of make the finished chandelier bit. You can either make a loop to attach chains to, you can shove thin wire inside of these delicas. If you do want to mess with chain and you didn't add these, but you can use the techniques that we did here in order to make the hangy bit here. And then you will have your finished pieces. These are really, really cute. I really like how these turned out. Although I think I kind of prefer it without the 2mm, if I'm being honest. But I don't know. They're really cool. And they'll probably be really fun to wear. So I also managed to do this with a 12mm round pearl. I just haven't added the chain bits yet because I haven't really decided what I wanted to do with it. But there are a few adjustments that I did to make this work. So I did my 30 initial round. I then started the peyote with a third stitch. Then I anchored the round through the peyote, the delicas, weaving through one delica, passing back and forth through them, just like you would do with the cone, if your cone had if your cone was top drilled. I added 2 size 15s on this side, on the top side. I did an extra row of delicas underneath before I closed it off to 2 delicas. Then I worked the same exact way for the bottom as I did the this version here with the Rivoli. But now I think this is because I used Toho beads instead of Miyuki, but I had to add 2 rows of size 15s, where here I only had to use 1. This could be because I used Toho. This also could be because the round sticks down deeper and is thicker than the Rivoli and probably pushes the little stopper out, the bullet out, further, so I needed more coverage there. So either way, you may have to experiment. And then, instead of just doing the little size 11 at the tip, what I did was, after I added the size 11, I added 2 more size 15s, a drop, 2 more size 15s, then went back down through the 11 and the crystal before going all the way down and completing my fringe. It's just a cute little extra thing to do. And you can have a variety of options when hanging this too. Instead of doing all 5 tendrils, you could do like 1 on each side, which will be a little complicated because this is an odd number. However, you can kind of turn it on its side and hang it. You can take like a piece of wire or whatever you're anchoring and do it only on 1, so that it hangs kind of like an urn being poured out or something. I don't know. Kind of kilters, and it kind of gives a little interesting thing to do. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I really wanted to work with these bullet-shaped beads, and I'm pretty happy with what I came up with. This is kind of what I was looking for. I saw these, and I immediately thought sconce. So, let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below, and also be sure to share pictures over on our Discord group. We have a nice, lovely little channel that we are talking, bouncing off ideas, mourning the loss of Swarovski, and just general beady gossip. So if you want to join a lovely little wholesome bead community, there's links to the Discord group down below. Reminder that the Facebook group is inactive. We are no longer using Facebook, so the website essentially is dead. So, we're replacing it with Discord, which is a much more fun environment to play with. And I think that will do it from me. Be sure to like up this video and subscribe if you want to see more bullshit from me. Check out all my social media tweets if you want to say hi or be like, hey, look at this cool thing I did. All pertinent links there are down below. And thank you to all of my patrons over on Patreon. You guys are awesome, and you help me keep this channel alive, and I appreciate each and every one of you. If you would like to be a patron and get an exclusive tutorials once per month, feel free to join me at patreon.com/odins.musings. We're doing a really nifty series next month. This will be a part 2 of this giant magnificent piece entitled Icebreaker. So if you'd like to participate in that, all pertinent links are down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and of course, if there's anything I need to be trying out right now, feel free to let me know down below, and I will see you next time.